Chef Sal was recorded on a cell phone in front of a fake audience.
Whew. Spaghetti squash, ladies and gentlemen, with homemade meat sauce. And if you want, you can put a little cheese on it. I was tempted to shave my pecorino over it. Hey guys, Chef Sal right here. I thought I'd catch you napping. All right, so anyway, here we go. Ready? Chef Sal here. As I said, I shoot on a cell phone. No fancy schmancy, stuff and computers and things. Just a cell phone, okay? And it comes out pretty good, as you'll see, okay? I mean, these guys spending all this money on these cameras and lighting, directors, getting 20,000 more hits than me. I'll get there, because it's a funny comedy cooking show and you're gonna learn something. All right. So I want to say hello to Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and Pinterest and whatever the hell else I'm on. Spaghetti squash. I'm going to show you how to roast a spaghetti squash and make a delicious meat sauce with it. I know. But this is good, like I said, because the squash, it's going to serve as spaghetti. The same consistency, has a nice, delicious, succinct taste, and you're gonna notice it. But as you're chewing it, it's gonna feel like spaghetti. It's pretty good, So I know you've been gorging spaghetti. I know when you come home with the munchies after the Christmas parties. I know what you've been doing with the spaghetti. Let us begin. Come on over. Okay, so what I did here was I took a spaghetti squash and I cut it in half. I scooped out the inside with a regular spoon, just a soup spoon. Don't get all the way in there. That's the meat of the vegetable. Once it's pretty much scooped out, I'm giving each side about a teaspoon. I use kosher salt because it's easy to kind of grind on there, so to speak. And some pepper. I brushed it with oil. My oil had a little bit of garlic flavoring in it. You can use regular oil. I use avocado oil because, again, it's on that Whole30 thing. And you'll see that if you look up the Whole30, like I said, it's just meat. It's meat and vegetables, basically, All right, so I have a 400 oven going. And I'm going to get these in there now because it's got to take about an hour. So as I'm doing the meat sauce, we'll let it cook, right? And I want the meat sauce to kind of cook for about an hour too, so hopefully it'll come together. We'll see. All right, I'm going to show you the stuff that goes into the meat sauce. It's very simple. After I put the oil down into the pan, which is at a medium high, I want to sizzle these onions. Don't put the garlic in with the onions. People make that mistake. They make that mistake, and then the garlic burns. And then I have some Italian seasoning. If you don't have, about a tablespoon. If you don't have Italian seasoning, you can use oregano. That's good too. Or dried basil, or dried thyme, or this is a mixture, I think, of the three. It doesn't matter. So let me get my oil down in here. And here's that 1 pound of chopped meat, and 1 can. This is 28 ounces of tomato puree. If you use tomato puree, which is kind of smooth, grinded potatoes. Tomatoes. You don't need tomato paste. There's tomato paste in here already, okay? And as far as the people, the percentage of the meat, do I use the 85-15 or the 90-10? Chopped meat. All right. And I'm gonna do my onions first. And this has been going, this oil, so it's gonna be, they're gonna crackle when you hit it. So let's sweat these down about 3 or 4 minutes. They're gonna start to soften. And remember, you're gonna be stewing this. It's kind of like, let it go like a stew, very low simmer for about an hour, maybe even 2 hours if you want to get really, really good, deep, brownish red gravy, like beef gravy. Oh my God. I'll see what I'll do. I'll probably do an hour and a half. We'll see. I want to see how the squash is gonna come out first. You know what I mean? So let me do this and make my cool little blurry thing in between the scenes, and we'll be right back. Hope that worked. A blurry thing. We'll see if it comes out in the editing. Anyway, we're back. It's been about 3 or 4 minutes, like I said. My onions are just starting to brown now, and they're softening up. That's all I have in here right now with the oil, of course. And And I moved it down to a medium. After the initial sizzle and I moved them around, I moved it down to like a medium flame. I don't want to get too crazy either, okay? All right? Now I'm going to add this Italian seasoning I told you about, along with the garlic, and keep it on a medium flame because garlic's like a big baby. Garlic's like a big baby, you know? It's like, oh, you're burning me, eh? So treat it like one. That's all. That's all. So you want this to move around in the pot for about 2 minutes. You really want to toast. You want to toast this seasoning. See, a lot of people add the seasoning after they put the tomatoes in and they have the sauce and they add the seasoning in. I mean, you could do that too, but you want to toast it. You want to give it a toasty. It brings it like that's how the Indian cuisine really is based on toasting these spices. Toast them. Did I say toasting enough? Anyway. So like I said, let this go a minute or two. Just take a look at the garlic. You know, it's still kind of sort of whitish. Still sort of whitish. Now, if we weren't on this eating way, I'm not going to call it a diet because the diet's like, you know, when you're forced to eat things you really don't want to eat, and then you have to watch because the person next to you is probably eating something you want, and you're stuck with a little thing over here that's all rabbit food, and it gets you kind of pissed off. Will you stop waving at me? They look familiar. Anyway, so I think enough said about that, right? Now it's very toasty in here. The seasonings and the garlic and even the onions are giving off a great aroma here in my kitchen. So now I'm going to do, I told you this before, it's a pound of chopped meat. Okay, this happens to be organic. Yes, it's 85/15. There's your number if you want to do it. It's just going to have less fat in it. You know, what can be bad about that? All right? So what I'm doing is I'm stabbing at the block. You can crumble it up before you put it in the pot with your hands also. But I'm stabbing at it and doing a twisting motion here with the flat side of my wooden spatula. And after that gets broken up into little pieces, that's when I'm going to add my salt and pepper, okay? I'm going to add about 2 teaspoons of salt. And we'll season it later too. Don't worry. But you want to get the, a base of seasoning in there. Italians, they're all about that. Now you can also do, I think I was starting to say this before, you can also do a little bit like a 1/4 cup of red wine before you put the meat on in with the I call them the vegetables. It's garlic and onions. And let that come down about a minute or two. But we're not going to do it. We're going to go alcohol free. And don't be afraid to mix this meat with the onions and the garlic and the seasonings. Matter of fact, don't be afraid to do anything. All right? Don't be afraid. I mean, look what you did in December with the eating. You weren't afraid of that. So, you know what I mean? All right. So I'm going to let this go until the meat's brown. You want it brown, like really good and brown. You don't have to be perfect in any kind of cooking. You really don't. It just has to taste good. And if you listen to me, it's going to taste good. I promise. All right? All right. Wavy. I'm back. All right, let me show you what this looks like. Let me turn this heat down a little bit. And it's just browned, okay? See? You can get it into the light there. There you go. See, the beef got browned all the way around. Maybe a little bit pink, but really not that much. And it didn't give off a lot of fat because it's kind of a lean version of the chopped meat that a lot of people use. Mine's organic.
Everybody loves somebody.
Anyway, so once it gets to that, if there's too much juice in there, or actually fat, the liquid fat or whatever, you just carefully strain it with a strainer into a bowl, get rid of it, and then put it back in the pot, okay? Medium saucepan, by the way, as you can see, but chefs on TV, we have to say everything, right? Medium saucepan, please. Oh, wooden spoon. All right, in goes the puree. You can use, somebody just wrote in, well, not really. But if they did, they probably would want to ask, can I use the chopped tomatoes, the roasted tomatoes, and any kind of tomatoes you want? You can use the whole ones and break them up with your hand if you want. You can use whatever you want, but if you don't use puree, I want you to use about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. That'll kind of thicken it up for you, okay? Now what I'm doing is I'm going once around the rim with some water, about a 1/4 cup, not a lot. I'm pouring that in. And if it gets a little bit too soupy looking for you, don't worry. This is a gravy. It's going to come down. It's like a stew. You know what I mean? You're going to cook it down. So we have it ready to let it go on a very, very long journey. A long, long journey. Probably about an hour and a half. I want you to mix it up from the bottom every 15, 20 minutes. So don't just think you can go on out and go ice skating. Once this thing comes up, I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit just to kind of further along the cooking process so the stuff's going bloop, bloop. But remember, it's tomato sauce and it's thick, so when it goes to each bloop, is one more wipe you have to do with the Formula 409. Can they still make that? You know what I mean? Just have a top ready. See, I got a top here that's ready. And I'm actually going to put it on and crack it and wait for the bloop, bloop, bloop to happen. Then I'm going to turn it down to a low simmer. You don't want it just to be looking like it's warming. You want to blow, so a very blip, not a blow. Blip, not a blow. So I'm going to come back after about an hour and a half. Now remember, my spaghetti squash is still in that oven. And that squash, you want to take a fork and you want to just stick it through a couple of times to test it, maybe after 45 minutes, 50 minutes. And if it goes through and comes out and you hardly feel it, hey, I didn't feel anything when I did that with the fork. I hate that guy. All right. Anyway, that's when it's done. When that fork goes in and out. It's called fork tender, okay? So let this go. Let that go. And you're pretty much done when they're both done. You're pretty much done when they're both done. You know what? I'll be back. Okay. All right then. So the sauce has been going for about an hour and a half, or the gravy, meat sauce, whatever you want to call it. And the spaghetti squash has been going for the same. I timed it perfectly for once in my sorry little life. All right, anyway. Let's take this out. I already tested it like I told you with the fork. Hey, I didn't feel anything when I did that with the fork. I have a glove on because it's steamingly hot. It's steamingly hot. It will steam you into a vapor if you touch it without a glove. But, you know, this is TV here, so I have to get things done quickly. That's what she looks like. Look how easy the fork goes through. I mean, it's very easy, okay? Very little resistance. Now, here's where we're going to make the spaghetti out of the squash, all right? You know, let me show you how to do this. And again, wait till it cools. Give it a good half hour. Let it cool down, okay? Let's not go crazy, but I don't have the time. I don't have the time. So I'm gonna see if I can take this off and use the tongs. And you wanna go the long way, see? But actually it's the short way, but you get the long, you know what I mean. All right, so let's go, see? It's coming out easy. I'm just kind of lightly running the fork through and fluffing it up, really. I'm not trying to dig into it, like anything like that, because then you're gonna get, I wanna get the longest strands possible that I can, you see? All right, so I'm gonna discard, or, you know, chuck this skin here. And, you know, like I said, this is a half, that was kind of a small squash, see? That's what a half looks like. Looks like a plate of spaghetti. I'm telling you. You know, you can holiday this one, you know, you can gorge a little bit, but not, you know, not this much. Now my sauce, the liquid part of the sauce has become thick and the meat's starting to peek out the top, which means that it is done. So I'm going to turn this off. And I already tasted for seasoning, for salt and pepper, which you should too. But I am going to add just a little bit of salt to the top of this here. Okay, just a little bit of a layer, that's all. Maybe about a quarter to a half of a teaspoon. Brings out the flavor. I did salt it before I roasted it, but you want to salt it again. Okay, just a little bit. Trust me on this. And get yourself a ladle. And, you know, give yourself a nice portion. Don't skimp, you know. You can't starve yourself. You're going to go right off this thing and you're going to start eating those cookies again. So, you know, start in the middle and go around. You know how I do it. And I'm doing it a little bit slow. And I'm being careful. You don't have to be so careful, you know. I'm important, you know. I have to go on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook with all these things. Now, I'm very important, so it has to look good. All right? So you can put some cheese on top. I'm going to skip the cheese. But I am going to put a little bit of parsley on here, some chopped parsley. You love the green? Maybe around the sides a little bit too. So if that doesn't look like spaghetti and meat sauce, then I don't know what does. Look at this. Whew. Spaghetti squash, ladies and gentlemen, with homemade meat sauce. And if you want, you can put a little cheese on it. I was tempted to shave my pecorino over it. But you can shave some pecorino cheese over it. You can do a little Parmesan cheese over that. You know, whatever you're into, that's fine. But anyway, I mean, you know, you eat like this for a month, and I know you've been working on that treadmill. I've been watching. A little Instagram.
Step back, I think I'm gonna vomit!
Chef Sal here, and enjoy this one.